welcome back to another episode of Talking Tuong, the weekly quarantine show where I, your host Tuong, talk to my friends near and far all over the place using the internet and all that good stuff, and we come together in a time of darkness to bring a little bit of light into your life. And this week we have a very special guest, someone who's been hovering around inside the pod cavern this entire time on other shows, but this is his first Talking Tuong appearance officially. Anyways, he's kind of trolled a couple other ones, but he's never actually wanted until now to be an official guest. We're waiting for the perfect topic for this person. So I'm going to introduce, and this person doesn't know this, but I use a random adjective generator these days. And what I have is the handsome and rhetorical Leslie Cserepy.
Ranked Nation.
No, it's Talking Tuong. This is a different, this is Talking Tuong. You don't have to.
So we're rating top 5 ranks.
Nope, just a separate show altogether. This is Talking Tuong, another pod cavern production.
Okay. And how many tongues do you rank on this show?
Ooh, we don't rank anything on this show. That we save the ranking for another podcast altogether. Yeah.
This is an interesting concept, Tuong. I'm so glad to be the first guest on Talking Tuong. Wow.
Oh, you're actually,
what's this now?
I mean, we've had several guests before you.
Excuse me?
Leslie. Yeah.
I'm the original guest in the pod cavern.
Yes. In the pod cavern, but not on Talking Tuong. You haven't been on the hit show Talking Tuong yet, but happy to have you, Leslie.
I'm happy to be here, Tuong. This is great. It's so great to hear your dulcet tones.
Oh, stop it. But Leslie, some people know you from Ranked. They know you from the Improv Punch-Up. They know you from all over the place, but they don't know you from Talking Tuong. So can you please introduce yourself and, what you've been doing to keep yourself happy during quarantine? What gets you going?
My name is Leslie Melville Cserepy. I was born in the Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, and I've been enjoying my time in the quarantine.
You've been enjoying your time.
Yes, I've been enjoying my time, Tuong. I'm free. I'm free of this capitalist system that forces us to work for people we don't give a shit about. In order to prove our worth and really just to get by and make a living. I am now sort of free from that system because the government is taking care of me, which I am very grateful for. And wow, what a great country we live in, that we don't just get one check for $1,200. We get months and months of being able to live and focus on what's important, ourselves. This is kind of the way that life should be, Tuong. This is kind of the way that life should be. Now I'm 4.5 months into it, something like that, approaching 5. I'm really am enjoying this time.
Good. I mean, like, for yourself, obviously, not for the rest of the world, what's happening and stuff. But for yourself, you're enjoying the time to step back, reflect on yourself, take a deep breath. You've been working really hard as an artist for so long, and now it's time for a little Leslie time, is what you're saying.
It's time for me.
Well, that's great, Les. I'm so happy that you're doing that. You're gaming, you're watching TV, you're taking care of yourself. You're working out. You're doing all these things.
I'm doing lots of stuff, Tuong. You could say I'm a billionaire philanthropist playboy.
Are you saying you're Tony Stark? Are you saying you're Tony Stark or his dad?
Ooh, top 5 Marvels.
Oh, we've done that. And this is also not a top 5 podcast. So maybe we should move on. Maybe I should show you what this episode of Talking Tuong is all about.
Why don't you show me? Why don't you show me what Talking Tuong is all about, Tuong?
I'll show you because, Leslie, we talk about the
Tuong?
news.
You? We talk about you?
No. We talk about the news of the week, which we talk about not the real news of the world. We talk about news that make people somewhat happy, like fluff news, pop culture news. That's what we talk about here. And Leslie, I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff at you today, and you let me know if any of it sings to you or not, okay?
Okay, let me get my news racket out. Hold on.
Okay, all right. First news story here. I got the papers are right in front of me. Batman, the Batman with Robert Pattinson, Mission Impossible, and a few more movies, but those are the two notable ones, are cleared to resume production.
Wow.
How do you feel about that?
Unbelievable. Now, they were, for some reason, they got... they had to stop production for some reason.
Yeah, the COVID has been a thing for a little bit. Yeah, I don't. How do you feel about movies resuming? Do you care?
Well, I'm excited. I'm dubious to see if that we'll be able to see them in a theater anytime soon. That is my preferred way to see movies. Watching movies at home is just really not the same for me. I know people prefer it, but like I am the kind of a person where there's just so much else that I am able to do. So therefore, I will do those things instead of just kind of fully engross myself in a movie. That's why I like being in a dark theater where I turn off my phone and I'm forced to stay there. And, I get the employees to tie me. And
what do you feel about this, Leslie? I've always been curious. Now, you don't like, when people talk during movies. I mean, who does? You don't like any crowds at a movie. You don't like to go on opening night for something.
No, I prefer to be one of the only people in the theater if possible.
So that brings me to my question here. If you had your own home theater setup, let's just say if you just had the real estate of, let's say something the size of a regular suburban basement kind of thing, and you were able to make that into like a personal home theater system, or a home movie theater system with like a nice recliner chair, you always had access to the good popcorn, you had surround speakers, a big TV, would that do it for you?
Well, I mean, of course, but we don't live in Fantasyland, Tongue.
Well, I just want to see what you
isn't the
like
land
about
of
movies.
Chocolate. This is real life.
All right.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Perhaps my home theater hesitations would be more. I would be more apt to go into a movie and watch it at home if I had a setup like that. But like, I don't know. There's like a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I'm just curious. That's curious. Hey, here's another movie thing for you. Jude Law in talks to playing Captain Hook in Disney's live action Peter Pan, which I didn't even know was a thing until today.
Jude Law is going to break the law
and play Captain Hook.
Wow. Well, I have no real attachment to Peter Pan. I have no real attachment to that character. Yeah, I don't know. Good for Jude Law. I don't know. He's a little too handsome, maybe.
Yeah, he's too handsome. I don't know. He doesn't have the facial hair for it.
Is Captain Hook supposed to be, suave and kind of debonair and like...
I think he's supposed to be a little bit disheveled, but hey, whatever. Speaking of, let's just keep going on the movie.
Who would you cast as Captain Hook, Tom?
Who would I cast as Captain Hook?
I have an answer, and I'll give you some time to think. Mine... What about an Ian McShane type?
Oh,
someone who's good. Like weathered,
Yeah.
Or like a Danny Trejo.
Oh boy,
that would be really interesting because like I want one of those actors whose face tells a story.
Okay. Here's mine. Lin-Manuel Miranda. No.
Wow, that's the new meaning to Captain Hook. Rap hooks.
Yeah, he's just rapping through the songs. No, I don't think he'd be very good. Hey, what about Chris Hemsworth? Not to be Captain Hook, but he's gonna play Hulk Hogan in a role.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you. I don't know if you knew this, but he released a quote the other day that says, "This movie is going to be a really fun project, and as you can imagine, the preparation for the role will be insanely physical. I'll have to put on more size than I have ever before, more than Thor."
Yes, I'm all in on that. I am all in on that.
You're a Chrissy Hem fan here.
I love the Hemsworth baby. I'm in. Give him to me. It'll be interesting to see if they touch on Hulk Hogan's more unsavory life choices.
See, I don't know too much about Hulk Hogan.
He's a racist wrestler. And had made a porno film. So.
Okay, I really don't know him.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well that's That's a something. That's a
But you know,
something
he
here.
also did leg drops, Tongue, and that counts for something.
All right. Well, good for him. I like Chris Hemsworth quite a lot, and I think he's a underrated actor. I know he's in like the biggest movie franchise of all time, but I think people don't give him enough credit for the wide variety of acting chops that Chris Hemsworth actually has. So,
I would
yeah, I
agree
mean,
with
he
that.
usually plays. Yeah, you agree with that? Okay, good, good. Although, did you ever see the El Royale casino movie or
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
was
yeah.
called?
Bad Times at the El Royale. Yeah.
How was that? How was that?
It's good. He's fucking good in it, and he's like, he's cut first of all, and it's ridiculous how like good looking he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's a pretty decent movie. It's a pretty decent movie, and he's good in it. He's one of the better parts of that movie for sure.
Speaking of
Speaking
good
of,
movies, speaking of good
speaking of,
movies, Mad Max Fury Road is getting a prequel series or a prequel movie. I'm not sure how you felt.
boo.
Yeah, that's a weird choice. I don't know.
Well, I was
Uh,
in until I learned what you're probably going to say right now, which is that
Charlize Theron not gonna be in it. They're gonna cast a
boo,
younger Furiosa.
boo.
Yeah, what the hell is that all about? I
That
don't
makes
get it.
me furiosa.
That's the line. We're gonna cut it at that. There's nothing else to say besides, yeah, I wish it was Charlize Theron.
You
Just
gotta bring,
I don't know.
you gotta bring Charlize if you're gonna double dip, Georgie.
If you're gonna double dip, just make her look younger. That's not that
Georgie,
hard.
if you're gonna double dip, baby, you got to bring Charlize.
I guess if she was like playing a teenager, I guess, but still, like, come on, just
How can
why
you
do we
do
need a
that?
prequel
Like,
series?
like the de-aging? Like, I don't know. I don't want that. I don't want Charlize de-aged.
Well, you don't want the Irishman of Mad Max Fury Road.
I don't want a 3-hour meandering character study of Furiosa. I want Furiosa kicking ass, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And also the de-aging of Robert De Niro was kind of weird.
It was
kind of
spotty at points.
Yeah, for sure.
Although if Joe
Ready?
Pesci was in the Furiosa reboot,
If he was Furiosa. All right, okay. Would you be in for a Ready Player One sequel called Ready Player Two?
So give me the book right now. That was I read that book a few years ago, and I think that was one of the last books that I like really just like devoured over the course of like a week or something like that. Yeah, I don't know if it's as good as the last one and is fun and has a good premise. Like, I'm in, baby.
Yeah, I know there's a huge hate for this book. And like I've read this book twice. I listened to the audiobook twice, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like a fun little like, it doesn't make you have to think too hard. It's just a fun little
Exactly.
romp the entire time, and it talks about video games, things that I like, and I had a good time. But a lot of people shit on it, and I think they suck. So I'm ready.
I think book people shit on it. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who really like to get like the intellectuals of the world. And there's nothing wrong with being an intellectual, but like some people just want to have a good time. Some people just want to have a good time, baby.
It was a good time. Another good time was The Invisible Man. I really liked that movie. I thought that movie like kicked a lot of ass. It was just a lot of fun. You didn't see it?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
Well, the director of maybe you should watch that tonight. I don't know. I'm not your boss.
You're not my mom. You're not my
I'm
dad.
not your mom or your dad. I'm neither of those things. But the director Lee Wannell is going to be directing the Wolfman reboot with Ryan Goss. We will see how it goes. I don't really love those original Dark Universe characters very much. So, oh, you're still the Wolfman. Okay, I see how this is good content. Yeah,
I think Ryan Gosling is a little too handsome. This is the opposite of what we had with Captain Hook. Oh wait, no, it's the same problem. It's the same problem. Now, so you know what I'd like to see? Danny Trejo as this. Callbacks. Who has the first callback?
Okay. How about this?
How about
Let's
this?
move off. Let's move off movies for a second here. I want to go into Electronic Arts. EA announced that there's going to be a reality competition show in The Sims 4 called The Sims Sparked. And it is a weird, I don't really completely get it, but here's the premise. The new competition will have 12 contestants competing for $100,000, and each player will have to impress a panel of celebrities judges that include BuzzFeed multiplayer YouTube personalities. I don't know the rest of these people. Kelsey Impakachish, singer, songwriter,
Kelsey
Taylor Parks, don't know who that is.
The Taylor
and,
Parks.
and Maxis game developer Dave Miyotaki. And former American Idol finalist Rayvon Owen will be the host of the show.
Thank goodness. You know what I say? Like more things need to be held by American Idol finalists. We just need more of that hosting ability that, you know, the being a finalist on an American Idol brings, you know.
In like
it's basically hosting
season.
boot camp, Tuong.
Hey, no, I was gonna say, didn't an American Idol finalist host The Floor Is Lava? But I don't think that's true at all.
I don't think that's true at all. No, but that's a good show. If you're looking for something dumb and like shut your brain off, don't even have to have the audio on. Really, like throw on some music if you want to. Just put it on in the background. The Floor Is Lava. Great time. So fun.
How many episodes is that thing?
I think, I don't know, like 10 or 12 or something like that. And like they have a lot of different rooms. They double up towards the end of the season. Like you'll see the same room that you've seen previously twice.
Oh, they don't change it up?
No, but normally they do. For like the first 4 or 5 or 6 episodes or something like that, they have all new rooms each time. So it's like, ooh, ooh, the kitchen. That's fun.
And do they like make the floor look like lava, or is it
it's
just
red?
It's like
red liquid. And the best part of the show is like the way they edit it is when someone falls into the lava, they tell their friends clearly, like the producers tell their teammates to go like to act as if it was as real as possible. And then once that person falls into the lava, you don't see them again. It's as if they died.
Wow. That's intense.
It is.
So what if your foot just barely touches the lava? Like that counts, you're done, kind of thing? Like,
I think it's probably like I don't know if they actually say, but I think it's like if it comes up to your knee or something like that. Like there are people who could like clearly have pulled themselves up, but because their knee is in, they just kind of like let go and they're like, no, I'm falling.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I should watch that. I should watch that.
Every time they start, it's like, because you're going to have a good time because the floor is, and then they get the teammates to go, lava.
I generally don't like reality TV, but this sounds like a lot of fun.
Throw on one episode and you'll watch the whole season. I guarantee it.
All right. Okay. I'm going to do that. But Leslie, we are here to talk about something else entirely. Let's take something like The Floor Is Lava, which is silly and kind of stupid. And let's talk about art. Or, you know, some people would argue, but let's talk about some art here, baby.
Top 5
Leslie,
arts. Yes.
Top
Love
5
to get
arts.
into it.
Yes. You're the one who picked the subject today. I was surprised that you wanted to do this. In fact, no, I'm not that surprised because I know how you feel about this series, but let's talk about it. What are we talking about today, Les?
Well, today, Tuong, we are talking about The Last of Us Part 2.
I have to finish it.
There's a cost.
We could have killed you. Maybe you should have.
The Last of Us Part 2. Holy crap. Okay, there's a lot of ways we can handle this. I think the first thing is that it's a follow-up to The Last of Us, the 2013 action-adventure game.
I gotta go.
By Naughty Dog.
I have the first installment to play. Hold on.
Let's see. Where do you, Les? I don't even know how to. Where do we start from here?
I think we should probably just give some non-spoilery thoughts about just how we enjoyed the game. For people that who haven't played it and that are kind of interested,
right. But we will say, I want to say, like, off the top, like a lot of the Talking Tongue episodes that we've done here is the topic of the day. Usually we get into it. So we can start off with some non-spoilers for sure. But
we're going to get into it. Don't you worry.
We're going to get into it.
Don't you worry, my sweet.
Talk spoilers.
Don't you worry, my sweet, sweet tongue. Don't you worry.
Okay. Leslie, do you want to set us up here? Where are we? Where does Last of Us Part 2 pick up?
Last of Us Part 2 picks up at a few years after the end of Last of Us Part 1, which I guess spoilers for The Last of Us 1 if you haven't played that game. But Joel, the lead character of that game, kind of breaks Ellie out of this hospital because she is going to die at the hands of a surgeon who is trying to get out this infection that Ellie is immune to in order to make a vaccine, which is it's kind of strange to play a game about a pandemic with no vaccine going into this year. But that's kind of where it ends off. And Ellie has questions about what happened. She wasn't sure exactly how everything kind of shook out. And Joel lies to her, straight up lies, tongue. And that's kind of where the game picks up a few years later after that. And then the part 2 plays with time a lot.
Quite a bit.
So
quite a bit.
You'll go back and forth and kind of get the parts that you missed in those couple of years.
Yeah. How did you find the time skips between, they do a lot with the time going forward and back. Did you enjoy that type of storytelling in a video game like this?
Well, yeah, it's structured very well, and I think that the times that they choose to go back are pretty poignant. I mean, oftentimes something will happen in the current timeline, and that will make you trigger this kind of this flashback sequence, and the two will kind of inform each other, which is just good art structure. I mean, like, if you're telling a narrative, that's just really good art structure. But tongue, non-spoiler, just real quick, and then we'll get into it. Then we'll get all these freeloaders out of here.
Okay. The non-spoiler take of what you think about Last of Us Part 2. Let's just hear your general feelers of how you felt about this game.
Exactly. Let's get into it. I think that if you are a fan of narrative, and by the way, I'm not a professional fucking game reviewer. I have very as an artist myself, I have a lot of hesitations about speaking about art publicly, but because I don't really have any experience in making video games or anything like that, and because I'm such a fan of this series, I feel like I just wanted to talk about it with my buddy Tongue Law on Ranked, the podcast.
No, Talking Tongue.
Okay, sorry. But non-spoiler thoughts. I think if you're a fan of really, really heavy narrative drama, I think if you're a fan of just like performances in general, if you're a fan of just interactive art in any way, this is a must play situation. Like, this is a work of art that is like just kind of monumental. It's so densely packed with amazing things, brutal things that aren't always the easiest to play. But I think it's just an incredible work of art. And if you have any certainly if you played the first game, you should play the second game. But if you haven't played either, I wouldn't steer you wrong. The Last of Us is just one of the greatest stories, period, in any medium, in my opinion. Tongue, what about you?
That's probably why it's so it's going to be a TV show on HBO at some point. So, and I think they're just gonna ape whatever the first game was and just retell it there, which I think they should just tell a separate story altogether, because I agree. I think the very first Last of Us made such a big impression on the world. Nobody was really expecting it from Naughty Dog. They're doing so much Uncharted stuff that the first Last of Us really wowed everyone. And, they took a very, very long time to make a sequel, and everyone was anticipating it. Now, we won't talk right now about what everyone else thought, because, we'll touch on it because I think it's important to address. But my personal opinion on Last of Us Part 2 is I agree wholeheartedly that it is a work of art, for sure. And I'm not saying that to be high pie in the sky type of person. Like, I am a person who does, my amateur critiques on video games and movies and stuff. And I'm an artist as well, but I don't mind talking about that stuff. I will say Last of Us is just, The Last of Us Part 2 in particular, just brings the what video games can be and how it can fuse like really good storytelling in this medium. So it's incredible how it's a big showcase of what video games can be to tell stories that movies can't, because it's an interactive experience. And by giving us these micro like stories when you're playing the game and just exploring environments, like those smaller moments of dialogue, or like, picking up like a piece of paper that has like some writing on it that is all informing this greater world. I think it's just an incredible thing. And going off the backbone of the last story, this is all subjective to what Leslie and I think, but I think personally that it does such a good job propelling the story in how, a lot of people shit on like, oh my God, this, like a lot of really loud people in the minority are saying, oh, this doesn't do a good job of bringing the story forward. And I think that's bullshit. Like these are like, it does such a great job of like, hey, this is this world. These people are just giving you more of it. And I thought they did such a great job with this game.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. And it is like, this is what video games can do if given the time, if given the proper team, with the right writers, the right cast, and I'm assuming all the money in the world as well. Like this isn't like fucking rinky dink, shooting seal games or something. I don't know why would there be a game called like shooting
that kind of thing.
Yeah. But this is like high art, man. This is a great way to experience stories. And, I saw something that kind of struck with me, where it's like people never blink an eye at someone like curling up with like a good book for the weekend. Like, oh, I'm just going to read this awesome book. But like everyone suddenly gets tight and judgmental about curling up with a good video game for a weekend. Like this is on the level of those great stories. Like there's no difference to me. So yeah, highly recommend it. Should we do a number rankings at the end, or
we'll
do you
what
don't
do you mean,
do
between
those?
the 1 and 2, between 1 and 2 you mean?
Between like 1 and 10. I'm thinking like to rate
I'll tell you what we do at the end for this.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
But let's okay, so we that's our general feels of this, but let's break it down of why we like it, and let's talk about gameplay. I think that's a pretty important factor.
Is this spoiler territory? Are we getting into spoilers?
No, let's just talk about like the general feel of the game and like playing the game actually. So let's put story aside for a second, and I want to hear your thoughts on the gameplay of Last of Us Part 2, and maybe like comparing it to the first game. Like you played it back to back, so this is really good for like I did not. So how did you feel about going back to back from part 1 to part 2? Did you notice much differences? What did they improve on? What did they take away? That kind of stuff.
All the core mechanics are pretty much the same, except in Last of Us 2, everything is just more refined. It's like they clearly took the time to kind of take the gameplay of the first game and see how it handled and stuff, and then they just kind of amped everything up to 11 as far as accessibility and smoothability. And it's good. It's kind of, to be honest, like it's a little samey throughout the whole game. I wish there was a little bit more variety, but what's there is really, really entertaining, and it never really gets old, I will say. Like I always had fun, sneaking around and killing people.
Did you get spooked?
Oh, 1,000 times. It's such a scary game. The way they space those moments out too is just like brilliant, because you expect them, but they can't happen every time, right? So you're just constantly always kind of on edge, which is how Ellie is feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that way, like it really mimics and is immersive the experience that it's trying to get across, you know?
Yeah, I definitely feel and I didn't play the first one before. I mean, I did play it like years ago, but I didn't replay it before playing this one. And going back into the gameplay of this game, I felt really good about it, and I really missed the way The Last of Us Part 2 or just Last of Us gameplay was. I really love the survival horror mechanics of this game and how they also fuse some Uncharted type of gameplay into it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like an Uncharted Resident Evil kind of mix where you're kind of managing your resources and crafting things to be able to progress in the story and progress in gameplay. But I do, even on the hardest, like I was playing on the hard difficulty, not survivor, but I did find it was on the easier side because I feel like as the game progressed, ammo was always readily available to me. And you can, I really love the game design in this game because it's pretty big open sandboxes of what you're dealing with when you're going into an encounter. Like there's like multiple buildings, lots of levels going up and down,
It's
any
huge.
different way of how you can approach a thing. And I would say that you can cheese it if you really want to. Like if someone spots you, you can basically run away a little bit as long as you're not getting shot too much, and then hide into the grass or hide behind a pole, and then everyone's like, "Where'd they go?" And then they just go back to their own like patrol. But that said, I love the tension of just trying to find the best way to, it's almost like a puzzle game, you know, like you're trying to puzzle out how you're going to sneak around these corners, and you get like a little, there's an excitement to like sneaking up behind somebody and trying to like take them out without alerting somebody else. Or the scary thing is when you're going into listen mode and you see two people kind of like unintentionally making kind of like a flank on you and you don't know where to go, and then you get caught. I think that's just, there's a lot of fun to it in the gameplay.
Yeah, for sure. And like that was one of the biggest things from the jump from 1 to 2 is just like the environments that you find yourself in are so much bigger. There's so many more ways to go and paths to take as far as how your gameplay style is. Like there's just almost endless of possibilities of how you could really go about it, which was cool. But as someone who's like a kind of a perfectionist, especially like after clearing a level, like it just takes so much time because I'm like, I went through every fucking building and every fucking drawer.
Yeah.
And it just takes a long time, but you know, that's,
it's a long game. It's a long game when you do that. Like I also took 35 hours, I would say, of trying to explore every single thing. I will say, like, sometimes I accidentally trigger the next moment by accident.
dude,
and you can't go back.
Same.
And I just like kick myself. I'm like, fuck. And
There was that door,
really
that secret door that I needed to get to, and I followed my curiosity, and now I paid for it. Fuck. I know the exact feeling.
Or you accidentally slide down a hill and you're like, well, shit, now I can't go up the hill and get like the secret collectible that's probably up there. But you kind of just move on. It's whatever, right? It just kind of sucks sometimes with that. But did you like the new enemies in the game?
Yeah,
there's a couple new ones.
Yeah, there are a couple of new ones. It's kind of spoilery to say, but like the Shambler, the new enemy, the Shambler, like
it's the fat guy, or
it's kind of a fatter guy. It was okay. Like I didn't see much like difference in the way I took it down or anything like that. So it just kind of seemed like a new skin on what could have been really any enemy. Like I didn't find its behaviors all that new, but those little quiet fuckers are like
stalkers.
Yeah.
Those guys are freaky. Yeah. I found like my most scared playing is like when you're really dark, like I think it was like in a hospital or
okay, we're getting into spoilers.
Well, no, not that hospital, but like that's in a different hospital, I think, or in like an office or something. And you just hear these stalker enemies kind of like just kind of going around, and these stalker enemies you can't listen to, you can't really see their outline when you're in listen mode very well.
Yeah.
And it's freaky.
It is. Yeah.
It's freaky.
It really is.
I kind of love it. I kind of love that, because it's like, oh man, these guys can get me at any point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else is there anything else we want to discuss before we just get into it, or?
Well, yeah, I guess just real quick, just because it's not really a spoiler thing, it's just an awesome thing. Like I was so fucking impressed. This is before the game even starts. The amount of accessibility options in this game is it's a new standard. Naughty Dog has put a new standard on accessibility options when it comes to video games, like bar none. And I heard that they are actively sharing their options and their options process with other studios and whatnot, so that hopefully these will become more standardized, and so that everyone can play games, which is amazing. But like, Tongue, you could play this game if you're blind. You can play this game if you're deaf. You can play this game if you have motor function issues. Like and even just for me, and like, we've had this conversation before where it's like, oh, I would really like to play the last Batman game, whatever it was, Arkham
Knight,
yeah, something like that. The third of the Batman games, the Arkham Batman games. I was like, I would really love to play it, but the subtitles are way too small. The text on the screen is way too small. Like, Naughty Dog has not only just options for the size of the subtitles, but you could choose the background, you could choose the color of them, which is crazy. You can make it so that the character names pop up. But yeah, you can there's like, go look it up online if you're interested, because like the list of accessibility options that they provide is just like unparalleled, and it's fucking awesome to see that actually.
I that was the first thing I noticed as well. I was like, holy crap. Like, I didn't use a lot of it because I don't need it, but I think it's such an amazing thing to make games more accessible to everybody, because games should be able to be enjoyed by everyone, right? Like, and to have this, and I love the idea that they're sharing with people, I think it's a beautiful thing. For sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wish I could rattle off some more options, but yeah, go check those out.
Check it out. Okay, let's talk about, before we get into it for realsy, there's two other things that I failed to mention, and one of them, I mean, it almost goes without saying, but let's talk about the graphics really quick, or attention to detail.
God. Yeah,
and attention to detail. This game is just chock full of beautiful assets and beautiful motion capture. All of their characters are animated in such a way that sometimes I forgot that I was playing a video game. Like, it's just like so well acted, and the environments are just so beautiful to look at. And the attention to detail stuff goes down to even when you're upgrading your guns. Like, you're creating new parts for your guns, and your character will just go ahead and do that in front of you, and it's so cool. What did you think about all that stuff?
Yeah, that's another thing to kind of look up. There are videos on YouTube of like the 20 coolest small details in Last of Us 2 that you can see, and like the amount of polish that it had went into this game, it's insane. Like, just off the top of my head, there's a segment where you're in a church, and this church has been abandoned for a long time, and the floor is dusty, and you walk across the floor, you can see your footprints.
Oh my God.
In the dust. You can crawl on the ground and leave a trail of clean floor behind you. When there's another section where you can crunch thin ice over water, and it acts like real ice. There's also, I mean, it's not a spoiler that you're killing people. So I once shot a guy in the head with a shotgun, and chunks of his brain were on the fucking wall, dripping down. It is incredible. Wow. And that's not even that's just the gameplay. The cutscenes, like the performances that they got in these cutscenes, it's
they got actors and actresses, like the professional people, like put in like a bunch of suits on, and they're legitimately acting out these scenes, like, and they're not just in like a voice booth, they're like doing it.
No.
And it's so, you can see that's the beauty of the video game, is that, I think like in previous video games, you would just, render whatever polygons you got, and then you get an actor in the booth and they will just do the best they can, right? But this is like their actual facial expressions that are coming through. And video games is such a cool place right now.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better.
Yeah, for sure. It's it is really impressive. Like you can put that acting up against any television show on HBO or whatever, and it'll stand up to that. Like the technology has gotten so good to really catch the subtle details in these performances. It's incredible. And then like the environments and stuff, they're just off the chain.
Oh, so good.
It's just off the chain.
One notable exception for this game that I don't care about, and I messaged you about this, and I have a friend, and I know I was just kind of digging into what people's thoughts on this game is, and I think the end of it is that I don't think it's a good Last of Us. Looking at people's opinions on Last of Us is very toxic. I'll be honest with you. Last of Us Part 2, I don't think it's a good idea unless you're listening to the show.
New Star Wars.
Yeah, it is so. And I don't even want to get into it right now. But one of the things that people complain about for this game is the lack of multiplayer, and it is a huge detriment to the game, to the people who loved the multiplayer in Last of Us Part 1. And a lot of people like that multiplayer. And I thought it was okay. Like I didn't really care for Naughty Dog multiplayers in general, but there's a big audience or a niche audience for the Naughty Dog multiplayers in the Uncharted games and Last of Us. How do you feel that they left it out? I heard they're going to bring it back in some form as a separate thing, but I don't know if they're going to pay for it or whatever. But as an $80 product, do you feel burnt that it's not even in there?
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, okay, that's the answer.
Not why I play these games, man.
Yeah,
like this is a 35-hour experience for Tuong and I, at least. And by the way, I would recommend like playing this over a more extent. Don't try and binge this game. Like it's just too much. It's like take a break. Play in chunks. Like I could only handle so much at a time, just because of the nature of the game. But
I played about like an hour at a time, an hour and a half at a time.
I think my longest session was like 4 or 5 hours or something like that. And that was because I knew I was getting towards the end, and no, I don't give a fuck about multiplayer. Like.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, it would have been nice to be there for the people that enjoy that thing. I get it, but I don't really come to Naughty Dog games for multiplayer in general. And to be honest with you, even though I do like the gameplay in Last of Us, I agree with Leslie too. Like, it can get repetitive for sure, which is why I like to play it in an hour and a half chunks. If I just played the entire thing at once, I think I would really burn out onto the gameplay. And I don't know. I just think I don't come to Naughty Dog games necessarily just for the gameplay. I come there for the interactive story and how they elevate with graphics and what they do with just with the story. So yeah, because if you break down the Last of Us gameplay, it's a lot of just like the same kind of encounters with in between a couple environment puzzles and a lot of boosting. A lot of boosting something over something else. They love doing that. I think they must have a boost scene like every 30 minutes or something. It's like
in the first one, you mean?
Oh, in all of them.
There's a lot of boosting in. There's less boosting, but there's definitely the same kind of convention of like, oh, we got to open this door, and then you spend forever opening the door because like the next section has to load. It's that kind of thing. But no,
totally.
Without multiplayer, this game is worth your fucking money, and I paid full price for this thing, and I got my money's worth. I got more than my money's worth, to be honest, because I'm going to play this game at least a couple more times.
I agree. I think it's a wonderful experience. But let's dive into spoiler territory right now and talk about why we think it's like worth the $80 and such. and we don't have to recap the entire story because the entire story is quite large. But let's
Figure
just
that
talk
out. Find
about
that out for yourself.
yeah,
You
let's talk
fucking
about
freeloader.
the general beats of the entire game. Okay, so the game's broken up into a couple different chunks, and it starts off with Ellie's revenge plot because spoilers again, spoilers, we're spoiling things
We're in the
very
thick
early on the
now.
game. Very, very early on the game, the main character in Last of Us 1, Joel, dies. And
What?
this upset a lot of people, and we won't get into it right now. But how do you feel like they handled that? And how did you feel about everything up until, let's say, when they switch characters? That first, like, third of the game, I would say.
Like the first time that they switch characters, or after Joel's death?
Or, like, so after, like, far past Joel's death, we're going to talk about like Ellie's revenge plot of the people who killed Joel up until you switch into, spoilers, Abby, and we play with her for like an extended period of the game.
Yeah. No, I just because you play Abby for like a smidgen for the when you're still Joel, when Joel's still alive. Yeah, you know, okay, so the death of Joel, it didn't land on me emotionally. It landed on me more a little bit like, oh, this is where we're going with this story. Holy shit. Wow. So this is Ellie's story, which I always kind of thought that The Last of Us was Ellie's story anyway. You know, even though you're playing Joel, it's really her story and her kind of coming into her own in this crazy world that she kind of lives in. So yeah, when it happened, it didn't land emotionally, but I was
shocked.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I was like, more like, I knew it was going to happen because I felt like it was going to happen, but I was shocked at how early it happened. And when, you know, fair, yeah. When that last swing of the golf club from Abby to kill Joel, I was like, oh, surely he's going to get up, right? And then he dies right there. I think it did land on me, I would say.
Well, yeah.
But,
I mean,
I'm more...
It'll land emotionally for a lot of folks, for sure.
But yeah, you're right. It is about her. Well, the story is pitched as Ellie's revenge story, right? And I think that's what this game is, right? It's about. I think the whole story is, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but the whole story is about a revenge plot, but also empathy as well. How do we forgive, and how do we empathize with this character Abby, which we'll talk about later, the person who killed Joel? People don't want to empathize with her right off the get-go is because she killed a beloved character, but we don't really know her side of the story. And interesting enough in this game, they show us that past of hers, and they start making you think like, oh, I was really quick to judge this person that killed my favorite character, like one of like the main characters of the previous game. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. What did you think of like that first bit of Ellie's revenge plot?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of standard revenge plot kind of storytelling. Yeah, it was good. Like it kept me engaged for sure. Like I just love the character of Ellie, and like the performance is so good from Ashley Johnson, and yeah, it's a good like first chunk of the game. Like it really kept me engaged, and as far as like the switch, when the switch happens, when it first happened. Go ahead. I don't want to go.
Oh, well, I was going to say, before the switch happens, we get introduced to characters like Dina and Jesse, and these newcomer characters that live all in like Jackson. This is where everyone is kind of living now, which is like, I really love this post-apocalyptic world for Last of Us. Like, I feel like they definitely set apart their own world compared to something like The Walking Dead or other zombie apocalypse type situations. I really like how they handle like the world in Last of Us, and how they handle like how these characters interact day by day, and they do like patrols and they clear out like sections. But there's like, now they've lived in this world for so long that there's like like large populations of people gathered together and that kind of stuff.
That was one of the
But,
coolest things, like just the expansion of the reality of the world from the first game. Like there's just so many more people around, and there's so many more, like they instantly show off like how far they've come with the game design and how they're able to fit more onto the PlayStation 4, because the first game was made for PlayStation 3, which so yeah, they really kind of take advantage of it. And it's like when you're walking through Jackson for the first time and it's like, holy shit, man, like they're really doing it. Like yeah.
The other characters, Dina and Jesse, and I think those are basically the two. And there's the other folks that Ellie ends up killing later, or in the first, let's say, third of the game, or even I would say third of the game. What did you think about those characters?
Yeah, I really like them, and it's this is a really diverse game. As far as diverse cast members and stuff like that. Totally. Like there are a lot of all different types are represented in this game. And even another character that we might get into a little bit later. But it's it's really good. They're really fully fleshed out and realized. I love that we don't even see that first trailer for The Last of Us that we saw that was at E3 where they kiss, where Dina and Ellie kiss.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. Like we don't even see that till like way deep into the game. Way deep, which is great. Yeah, no, they're fully realized characters, and definitely it wasn't a case of like, oh, it's a sequel, so here are these characters that we don't really care about, like, because we get to spend so much time with them. Like they truly do grow on you. And I think that the relationship between Dina and Ellie was really nice and lovely.
Yeah, me too. I was a little bit like hesitant on just like, I'm always a little bit hesitant on like a new character. And I was like, obviously I'm going to give them a chance. So I was just like waiting for them to kind of win me over. And they did. Like, I thought they were really, and I think they also do because, they also help you in gunfights. They take down enemies for you and stuff like that. And like, honestly, that's a big part of the story too. Like how these characters take down enemies with you. They really feel like they're helpful during an encounter or a big thing that's going to go on. And I really enjoyed that. But I will say, like, that whole little first bit with Ellie in the first third, like, I did enjoy it enough, obviously, to keep going. But I did like what I was seeing, but I wasn't blown away at this point yet. Right. I was saying, like, when we reach to the climax of that first bit before we switch over to Abby, which is, you're at the theater and like they what's his face? Joel's brother, Tommy, and Abby has a gun to his head, and you go through the door, and Jesse suddenly dies. Like that was like a big shock to me. I'm like, crazy, oh my god,
just like holy shit.
I love those parts in these types of games where your favorite character or some character that you just spend a lot of time with, they can die in an instant, because that's real life. That could just happen. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm at the climax of the game already. This is insane. And then they do the switch.
Yeah.
And
you're just getting
before
started.
that. Oh yeah. But before that, we see a lot of flashbacks too of Ellie's, like, younger years when she was just kind of starting out in Jackson, or even before that, which I love that they had finally addressed and they didn't just keep it a secret, was when Joel tells Ellie the secret.
Yeah, that was great.
That really informs their relationship, because you have the impression that they left off on a bad note before Joel died, and that she never really got to forgive him or anything. And then you get to see that scene where she really, really rips into him, saying like, hey, I could have been someone if you didn't just take that away from me. Very powerful scene.
Yeah. And really well acted too.
Very. But let's go into like the surprise of the game is that you get to spend an extended period of the game as Abby.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Well, first of all, she's yoked as fuck.
Yeah,
she is, dude.
Fucking
holy
so
shit!
Big.
I'm trying to get myself some Abby arms, man. My God.
I know. I couldn't stop looking. I'm like, damn, she could fucking destroy
Dude,
me.
when she's choking people, you feel it. Like, it's like, oh man, that would be brutal.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So when the switch first happens, I was like, I fucking hate this. I hate it. Why
Yeah.
am I playing? Why am I playing the bad guy? I don't fucking like this person. She's harming Ellie. Like, Ellie's my girl.
Yeah.
Why am I playing this piece of shit?
This is the Ellie game, not the Abby game. What is
Yeah,
happening?
exactly,
Right now?
exactly. And then it keeps going, and then it keeps going, and it's still happening, and you're learning more and more about the context of Abby's backstory and what's happening. And I'll be goddamned if Naughty Dog didn't make me fucking really care about Abby by the end of it.
Yeah. And I think that's the crux of the game and what makes it so different than other stories. Like, I feel like a lot of people like really revere the first Last of Us story, which I also do. But if you really break and really critique the first Last of Us story, it is essentially your typical zombie apocalypse type of plot with a very nice coat of paint on it and a couple different twists and turns.
Yeah.
But this story is so bold of making me play Abby, the person who killed, the main character of the first game, and then the audacity to try to make me like this character.
Yeah.
It's very polarizing to a lot of people, but like for me, it was effective. And I love that just boldness to just like try something like this out in this big of a game,
Yeah, and it gives real like credence to that idea of you're the protagonist in your own story, but you could be the villain in someone else's story. Like,
yes.
by the time you really get by the time you get to the theater in Abby's section, it's like, holy shit, because you know what's going to go down.
Oh my God.
And it's just the way it culminates. It's first of all, it's very Herald structured a little bit. It's like, oh my God, 1A, 2, 2A, yeah, yeah. And then it's like, oh, Callback Island, here we go. Holy shit, it's going down.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I actually love that aspect too, because like you're looking at characters in Abby's side of people that Ellie killed, right?
Yes.
And Ellie goes on a revenge like tirade against these people that mean so much to Abby, but you don't even care about these people when you're killing them off the first time.
Right.
And then you get their backstory a little bit and you see how they interact with people and you're like, oh, well, they're actually really nice to other people on their own part of the world and they're just kind of living their life. And then you realize they're like, oh, well, Abby's whole revenge plot started because Joel killed her father, the person who would have made the cure. And then it starts becoming a little complex. You're like, oh, well, in a way that's kind of justified. Like her emotions make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Ellie's are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what is like so good about the story is like, oh, I see both of their perspectives and I see why both of them want revenge on each other, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a cool thing. Now, there's other things about Abby's story that I think is very important to touch on because I know it didn't land with other people, but I think they did a very good job with this. And what do you think about Lev and Yara? That whole story of Last of Us's transgender character, Lev.
Yeah.
How do you think they handled that?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to speak on this, but
sure.
Yeah, so I'll just put that out there. That is not my life. I have no idea what that lifestyle is. For people, but it is very real. I am pretty glad that there is a transgender character to talk about. But there are some very valid criticism. There are a couple of really valid criticisms on the character of Lev being, kind of written by this cisgendered perspective that really kind of opened my eyes.
I'll say what I think about Lev, the transgender character in this game, is that what I did like about it, and like I come with the same place of like I don't know that experience, but I do think it is. I like that there is representation in this game, and some people think that it is just a a political move on Naughty Dog to just shoehorn anyone who is a person of color or of LGBTQA or LGBTQ plus. And I think that if I don't mind that there's characters like this in the game. I feel like there should be more of these characters in this game, because when I saw like characters like Jesse and Yara and Lev, I'm like, I'm starting to see like more of my people in this game.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing. And for Lev in particular, like, again, I'm not trans, so I don't really understand the experience at all, but I do like Abby's story because it revolves a lot about this other subplot, which is the battle against these two factions that is going on in the background. And we got to learn about what these different two factions are all about. The Wolves, which is what Abby's faction's all about. But then we get to hear about the Seraphites, or the Scars. And I get the impression that the Scars are really kind of traditional and also very religious people, and people who break that type of religion. And in this case, like it sounds like everybody has to have like their roles of very early day stuff of like, you are a boy, you are a girl, you have to marry into like we will match you up with the perfect mate, that kind of stuff. That is what your role as a girl is. And how it felt like that, it makes sense to me that somebody in that whole community would say, no, I'm not doing that. And that character just happens to be Lev. Like, I think that's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
I don't think they spend too much longer on that than they have to. They never say the word trans, and they like obviously allude very heavily that Lev is trans, and they address that to some extent, but I didn't feel like it was ham-fisted to me the entire time. Like there was no part where they're like, you can be whoever you want to be. And like, there's a whole like sweeping soundtrack when like someone says that to Lev, they're just like, oh, you want to, like, you identify as a male? Cool. Let's keep going and killing these clickers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And then they just moved on.
Yeah. I'm very happy that there are trans characters to talk about in a video game. There are really valid criticisms out there. I won't speak on them because I tried to earlier, and I just don't want to get it right. I can't say it more eloquently than they can.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
I'll point people to an article on Kotaku. It's called I Have Mixed Feelings About Last of Us Part 2's Trans Character, and it is written by Riley McLeod. Maybe Tongue, I don't know if you can link to that in the show notes, maybe. But
totally. Yeah.
There are people who are really conflicted about this character, and I think that's valid. But it is also great that there are characters like this to have these discussions so that we can continue to move forward and get more representation like people like this in games. So
it has to come in, like, I'm not saying they got it perfect either. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I feel the same way, is that maybe I'm not very qualified to talk about this, but I will say that it is, for me, it is very nice to see that in a video game, and I want it to be normalized in a sense that we can see more of these characters. And if this is the first step for these characters to be introduced, and we're getting valid critical arguments of why it's good and why it's like why Lev misses the mark or whatever, then I am so open to that. Like, art should stir conversation.
Yeah.
And that is good art to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the politics and like that type of stuff aside, like let's talk about how I think at the best of Abby and Lev, I felt as though it tried to successfully and not successfully, maybe not as effectively, but in large parts, I think it mimicked a lot of the relationship between Joel and Ellie in the first game.
Totally agree.
And I think now we can fast forward later too, is that this informs a lot of Ellie's decision at the final moments of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think she feels that, and that's where we go from here, right? Like, so we have the scene at the theater where there's the big confrontation and we think this is the end of the game. And I honestly, my heart was like, it felt like a final boss where you're fighting against Ellie. And this broke me when I was playing this side of the game, because I'm like, oh my God, am I going to kill Ellie?
Yeah.
I felt scared.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that part of the game, by the way, that climax of this part?
I mean, yeah, well, it's super intense. And like, I love that, we finally kind of get the reveal of the menu screen at the beginning. We were like, what's this fucking boat about? What is this all about? And then we finally get to it. And it's like, oh shit. Okay. All right.
Oh, you're talking about that part of the game. Yeah. I was thinking about the one in the theater. The one where you're fighting Ellie as Abby, when you're kind of like in the theater. And
in the theater.
Like
yeah. Where Ellie becomes the boss. Right. Yeah. No, that was cool. It was it felt weird though. I was very conflicted. I was like, I don't want to hurt Ellie.
You finally started to empathize with Abby.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I don't want to kill Ellie. And a lot of the actions that you do really, really feel like you're going to kill her. I wouldn't have been surprised if the game ended like that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it could have ended like that and it would have been valid, right? It would have been a valid ending.
Yeah. But then what you get is that the game has something that feels like an epilogue, like Uncharted 4, where you're on the beach, but this time you're part of a farm, and they play it very epilogue-y, where it's like you're on a farm, there's a year or two past, I'm not exactly sure how much time has passed, but Dina has the baby now and they're very happy. Ellie's doing chores around the farm, whatever, and you're like, oh, this is the end of the game. And there's like even like a nice little sunset area where Ellie says something like, oh, the adventures I had, that kind of thing. You're like, oh, the game's about to end. But then it goes for another couple hours.
Yeah.
And was not expecting that. And this is when you go back into Ellie's shoes, where Tommy, Joel's brother, ends up being still alive and saying, hey, you didn't fucking finish what you started. And that's keeping Ellie up at night, because she's been having PTSD this entire time. She can't sleep. She can't eat, all this stuff ever since Joel died. Very important figure in her life. And then you go back on the quest to kill Abby. How did you feel about the last bit of the game there?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's that. I was happy to play as Ellie again. To be quite honest, it was good, because I wanted to see that story play out, because she's a character that I really, really enjoy. I thought it was cool to go to what is it, California,
Santa Barbara.
Yeah. I thought that environment was cool, and infiltrating that base and stuff like that was really just a fun kind of setup, just because there are so many of them, and it's like, holy shit, I really am like kind of infiltrating
1,000.
Yeah, it's me versus them, and then we get to that final fight on the beach, which is so fucking intense.
Oh, so intense. And you get to play as Abby a little bit before too. You get to be like, oh, Abby and Lev are going to be fine. They're going to reunite with the Fireflies in the first game.
Yes.
And then like all of a sudden they get caught. Like they're so close to the finish line of what they're going for. And then they get caught by these people who basically make people into slaves. Or if they try to escape, they let them turn into one of the infected and then just treat them like garbage, right? As an infected.
Yeah.
And you see Abby like on a beach on like a pike, and Lev as well, and Ellie now just torn to shit. She lets them both go, quote unquote. Abby leads them to the boats, and Ellie's just like, oh shit, like I came here for a reason. And then you got the final confrontation between the two, and it's quite a fight. Like
yes.
it's not like a gameplay complex kind of fight, but it's intense.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
And especially when it's like she's stabbing her in the fucking abdomen or whatever, like in the chest. And it's just like, oh shit, is it really going to happen? But when she chooses not to, that thought that you said about Abby and Lev becoming the Joel and Ellie of this game, like I think she really did see that parallel within the two. And they had both gotten their shots in. They both know that they're not to be fucked with. there's a mutual respect there on a certain level.
I agree.
And I think it was the right ending. You know, I would have felt a little bit robbed if one of them hadn't gotten out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was quite an effective ending. Like if they both I don't know how to say it better than that you just did, and I think it was a really cool moment to see like everything up until the moment. I was telling a friend of mine, friend of the show, Ethan, and he was saying, did you think it was like a Deus ex machina to see Joel on the porch happy, right before the moment of, you know, sealing the deal and killing Abby? And I was like, well, not exactly, because, or not at all really, because the whole revenge plot revolves around Joel. So it's not all of a sudden, it's not like a surprise to see like an image of Joel. But the other thing is, like, I think it's completely believable of somebody who is going through an entire revenge plot, and that's the only thing that they are, you know, driven by. And once you get so close to the end goal of what you've been going for, in your final moments, you think of the person that you're doing this all for. And I think there's two things. You would think of like the revenge aspect of it, or you might think of a happy memory.
Yeah.
And for her, she thought of this happy memory. And that's when we get the flashback of her saying, hey, like basically saying, hey, like, I'm sorry for treating you like shit. What you did was super wrong of like, you know, letting me live, but I know you care about me. I hope I can forgive you one day. And you see that beautiful scene play out on the porch. Really good stuff, really top-notch stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was just so intense. Like I really had to take a couple deep breaths after that entire sequence. And then there's the final kind of epilogue after that, where we go back to the house and it's all empty, of course. And that was kind of a gut punch too, where it's like, oh shit, man.
Yeah.
Like the house that they were happy in is now empty, and we don't know what the future holds.
And she can't play guitar anymore.
Yeah.
like that's the thing that was like kind of teased during the entire game, is she learned guitar through Joel, and through her revenge she lost 2 of her fingers. Nothing's the same after that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's very poignant to like what The Last of Us is like there's your actions give real consequences in this world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And can we just talk like real quick about the guitar mini game? Like that's just a so cool, interesting a way to conceptualize playing a guitar in a video game.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time just like fucking around on that guitar for a while.
Yeah, for sure. But there are videos online of people that play like real songs. It's crazy.
I know, it's crazy.
And I knew that was going to happen as soon as I started like fiddling around with it. I'm like, oh, people are going to be actually able to like play solos and shit eventually.
You can
like
change keys and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you can change. It's really nuts.
And all the for lack of a better word, fingering is correct too. I mean, it's all animated to be correct on a guitar and stuff like that. But after the game finished, I just sat there and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
whoa. It was like watching a really, really, really intense drama. It was just like, it just blew my mind. I just had to sit there and I watched. Did you watch the whole credits, Tung? Did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's a nice little reveal at the end, where the boat is in Catalina.
I know.
It's kind of cool.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So,
what do you think that means?
I think that, you know, it means Abby and Lev got to the Fireflies, and they're starting their next chapter. You know.
That'd be cool. And I'd be fine if they do a Last of Us Part 3. I know they said there's no plans for DLC or anything, but if they do a Last of Us Part 3 to have it with just Abby and Lev, I'd be fine with that personally. But if they also decide to revisit Ellie, that'd be cool too. Or if they decide they don't want to touch it for another 10 years, then that's fine. It's up to them, right? I don't want them to rush into anything.
I think that third option is the most likely. I think we're not going to see another Last of Us for probably until the end of the PS5 life cycle. Yeah. But like, this game was on a PS4, man. Can you imagine what a PS5 version of this game would be? Like, oh,
that would be nuts.
Dude, that makes me so fucking excited for the future of games.
Totally.
Shit.
It'd be so cool. There's one last thing I want to talk about through the game, and I kind of skipped over it, but there's an amazing moment in the game where you're at the hospital and you're playing as Abby, and they're saying, "Oh, nobody's cleared this out in years," and you
Yeah.
fight this giant motherfucker. I loved that.
The Rat King, it's called.
It was such a fun, like, he's such a fucked up monster, and there's such brutal kills in this game. Like, if you get caught by that guy, you get fucked up.
Yeah.
There's so many scenes where you're like, oh, this guy just tears Abby in like half, basically, and there's like other scenes where like, oh man, if you ever die in this game, it's just so brutal the way you go out.
Yeah, it is brutal. It is brutal. Could we just talk about like just some of our favorite moments in the game, just real quick, just rapid fire? Because I have so many like a great moment would happen. I'd be like, that's my favorite moment in the game, and then a few hours would pass and be like, that's another favorite moment in the game. Oh my god! And that just kept happening through the whole thing.
Yeah. Go ahead and name me yours, and I'll try to think of some here. Like the Rat King thing was definitely one of mine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to piggyback off of the Rat King thing, when you're fighting it, and then halfway through the fight, one of them splits off of it and it goes scurrying around, and then you're fighting two of them. I was like, holy shit. And I'm running around and I'm like trying to reload, and it just keeps breaking down walls and shit. Oh my god, that was so fucking tense.
So intense.
So fucking intense.
And you're just throwing bombs and like just doing the best you can to survive.
Yeah,
It's so good.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Good.
Another favorite moment of mine was in Seattle with Ellie and Dina. And did you go into the music store, Tuong?
Yeah, I did. I'm trying to remember what happened in there, though.
You pick up the guitar and you sing a little.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Isn't that a mandatory part?
On me.
Doesn't everybody have to go through that part?
I don't think. No, I think. No, it's definitely optional because you're.
Okay, I definitely got that. Yeah, that is such a. Oh, yeah. That cover of Take On Me by Ellie is
so good. I was singing that for days after. Yeah, it was just so
in
like
my head now.
Touching and lovely. But I actually, that whole Seattle section was really cool because they kind of did the Uncharted Last Legacy. Did you play that game?
Yep.
They did that thing of like, they had the big open area and then a map of it. And
then you're like kind of crossing stuff off as you're going.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah. So like I explored everything within Seattle. I'm pretty sure at least. But did you catch did you go to the bank in Seattle?
What was at the bank? I'm trying to remember. Like I definitely explored everything that I could, but I'm trying to remember what
So
happened.
in the bank, there's the shotgun. You find the shotgun, but there's also a little Easter egg in the bank. In one of the deposit boxes, there's a ring. Did you get this? There's a ring that says Sic Parvis Magna on it. It's a little Uncharted Easter egg.
Oh, okay. I think I actually did get that, but I didn't really pick up that it was an Uncharted Easter egg.
Oh, that's so great. That's so funny because I was like, oh shit! It was the Nathan Drake ring.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was really cool. And one of the porno names that guy who grows all the weed, one of the porno names was like Smash Brandy's Cooch.
That's a good porno.
That was a Crash Bandicoot. That was just like funny little naughty dog.
I love that's the attention to detail that like I'm talking about here. Is like if you just go into like the music store, if you go into any of the areas in the game, and you just kind of look around and how they set dress the place, they all kind of have their own mini stories on like, oh, like the person who lived here lived like this, and because they're really intentional in how they built their environments, and I really like that. Yeah, like I'm trying to remember what like my favorite parts. Like I kind of said some of them already, and the ones that you mentioned, at least definitely the guitar one for sure. I love that stuff. But even like going through the burning village, or that war that's going on with Abby and Lev, and they're just trying to get off the island. I love that stuff there when you're on the horse driving or riding away.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Or like there's so many moments in the game where I'm just like fucking like, oh my god, this is so intense. And one of them is like beginning with Yara and Lev is where you boost them out of there and you're just kind of in this thing and you're waiting for them to save you, and you just got to fight a bunch of like clickers and shamblers coming after you. And I'm like, this is so like intense to fight off all these enemies and whatever. But I also really like the quiet moments in Uncharted 2, like going into the museum with Joel.
Last of Us 2. You said Uncharted.
Sorry. Last of Us. And the going into...
Dude, I was going to say the museum. Museum. That was when they're in the launch, the rocket ship launcher.
Yeah.
And like, first of all, how did he get that tape?
Yeah, I don't know.
When did he get the tape
spent
of
long.
the countdown, the actual countdown? But like, oh my god, that was such a touching moment. I was like, that was another one where it's like, that's my fucking favorite moment in the game. And I think it might be, as far as like definitely the smaller moments, like just
Yeah,
because just the performances in that section are so good, and like the
yeah,
motion capture and everything, like it looks
and
it's real.
that and like the porch scene at the end is like that guts me. Just like seeing the performance of that is like, oh, beautiful, beautiful stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it of the game. I mean, I feel like we can go on and on and on, but at some point, it's gonna be a 3-hour podcast.
Oh my
So
god.
I will say,
Yeah.
let's give. I mean, we didn't even really dive into this portion of it, but I will really quickly just say that art again is meant to be discussed, and I think if you're going to engage in these types of conversations, I think you should always come into like an open mind and stuff. If you didn't like the game for whatever reason, you don't have to be a dick about it. I also don't think, like, if you don't agree with the story choices of this game, then that's on you. Like Leslie and I described why we liked it, but if you didn't like it, then don't be a dick about it, and don't send death threats to the director or the voice actresses of like Abby, and like that's not cool. I hate that.
No, that's horrible.
Like, why are
That's genuinely horrible. Like have normal discussions. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like, I don't know. I can't believe you're coming after the makers of this game and the people who like own this story. It's like it's their story to tell, basically, and you're here to be along for the ride. So if they make a decision, it's exactly that Star Wars thing. You hit the nail on the head.
Oh.
Is that people are taking this giant ownership over it, and if they kind of stray away, I wouldn't be surprised if someone said remake The Last of Us Part 2, and they're starting some petition for that. Just don't. Like, this story is great. I think it's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of the best things I've consumed this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And my only criticisms come from like the sameness of the gameplay throughout the game, but I still had a lot of fun with it still. And if the gameplay of it is not that fun for you, then just turn it on easy mode and just enjoy the story mode. Like, that's what I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are complaining that there's not enough environmental puzzles compared to The Last of Us Part 1. And I'll remind you, The Last of Us Part 1, the environmental puzzles kind of sucked.
Yeah.
They were
great. I like the safe puzzles. The safe puzzles were kind of fun. Like, you just, having to actually look through the environment and like find like a poster on the wall or something like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that was
like
great.
that too.
That was enough for me.
Those are good. But I don't need to like push Ellie on a raft like I did in the first game.
Yeah.
Like, that's not that fun to me. So if you're missing that from the first game, then I don't know what to say. I think you're just finding reasons to complain about something.
Yeah. But
all right,
this is a game. It's worth your time. It's worth your money.
Yes. So Leslie, with that in mind, we need to we can rank, not me. Now, finally. You need to give it a rating. Now, I want you to rate it on an arbitrary scale that you're creating in the moment, probably to the theme of The Last of Us. So what's your rating of this game?
On a scale of half bottle of alcohol to clicker brain fragment. I'm gonna have to go clicker brain fragment on this thing. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it.
Yeah, that's a good rating scale. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I love this game. I truly do, and I think it's worth going through, especially if you played the first game. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
In fact, I highly recommend playing the first game and then going into the second game if you it's been a while since you played it.
Yeah.
Because that's what
someone who didn't do that, I would recommend what Leslie just said. I did not do that, and I kind of wish I did. Yeah,
it's great. Just play the first game on easy. I think the first one is very cheap now, so.
Oh yeah, it's like $20.
Yeah,
and that's on full price. So,
yeah. For a sale, I think I got it for $10 or something like that with the DLC.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's the end of Talking Tongue. We did it. I mean, we could discuss this more and more and more, but I think everyone kind of gets the impression of what we felt about this game. So before we wrap up, do you have any plugs for the people at all?
You can listen to the Improv Bunch Up at podcavern.com. Every once in a while a new episode will pop up of that. So you can listen to that. Also, I have a very small role in a project. You can go to www.adoesn'tlivehereanymore.com. as in the letter A. It's just an interactive theater piece from some theater students who can't do an actual show in today's world. So they decided to take their show online, and it's a kind of interactive, clicky experience. So go check that out. A doesn't live here anymore.com.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing, and I would like to see more of this pop up in this interactive world we live in.
It's cool.
And for me, you can find the rest of the shows in the Pod Cavern at www.podcavern.com. Leslie, do you have a catchphrase for the people?
Tongue has a clicker fetish.
Okay, that's what I have. Bye, everyone.